Well, Chris, thank you for joining us on the Law of Relevancy podcast. We're honored to have you on the show. Your claim to fame is you are an influencer. So tell us a little bit about how you became an influencer.
So it's funny. I became an influencer, but I use those like rabbit ears because I can't stand the term because there's so many like negative connotations behind it. I truly believe everyone has influence. I just chose to use my influence in a way that impacts certain populations. And I started with the diabetes population because I do have type 1 diabetes. I started speaking, I started posting content relevant to my struggles in my life. People liked it. And I was like, oh, more people like this. I'm going to do this more. It seems only natural. And that just progressed over time, even unintentionally. It wasn't until I started intentionally saying, hey, wow, this can be a thing. This can be a career. This can help not only patients, but providers and companies. There's so much value to be given from struggle. Why not run with it? And now that's what I do full time as a professional speaker, as a consultant, and as a social media influencer, as you would say.
Right. And so for those that don't really know like how an influencer, like how they conduct their career, how they make money, like, so what are the ways that an influencer can make money?
How many minutes do we have on this podcast? Because there's quite many ways to do that. So there are influencer agreements with companies where they will pay for posts. They will pay for content. That could be posts, blogs, interviews. I've done satellite media tours, representation of companies, representation of unbranded campaigns for companies. There are in-person events. There are takeovers from their account or your account, sponsored posts. There are so many aspects of influencer, along with like using products and reviewing products. There's the world is endless in terms of influencer marketing. So for me, I only take opportunities that are relevant to my main goal, which is to help and value and impact the populations that I serve. I don't take things that aren't relevant to me. You know, unfortunately, there are a lot of offers from bots or automated companies that are running an influencer campaign that's just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. Do not offer me makeup or coffee or something that you could have taken 2 seconds to see, oh, he doesn't use makeup. Oh, he doesn't drink coffee. You know, it has to be relevant. And I'm big on authenticity. And that's how I use my brand as an influence.
Well, I think what you just hit on is super, super important. In my experience with talking with influencers, one of the things that they really, really understand is on brand, right? So your brand was born out of the type 1 diabetes group, right? So how many people in America have type 1 diabetes? Do you know?
About 46 million have type 1 and type 2 diabetes combined. Over 90 million potentially have diabetes.
Oh my heavens. That's a lot bigger number than I thought. And it's a number
to grow by 60% in the next 10 years.
And why is that? Why is it going to grow?
A multitude of factors in terms of like lack of exercise, reasons we don't know in terms of type 1 diabetes, but a lot of lifestyle modified behaviors can affect that. Not exercising, not eating right. We're a lot more stressed in our society today. We're making less money, so we work more, which we donate less time to our health. There's a lot of factors, and some we don't know for type 1 diabetes, but that's where we're trending.
Well, wow, that is heavy. I had no idea that the challenge with diabetes was growing and getting like that. I know that there's been a big focus on health, especially during the pandemic, right? I mean, like so one of the things I really like to do is go offshore fishing. And so one of the hacks you have is you have this buoy when you go mark your spot. And so that you can go spend $50 on a lead ball, or you can go to Walmart and buy a $10 dumbbell, you know? And so I went into Walmart and I walked down the little aisle where the sporting goods were, and it was completely cleaned out. There was not a single dumbbell, no like one of those kettlebell bells or anything left at all. And I asked the lady, and she said, this was back in like May. And I said, where is everything? Did y'all move it? And she goes, no, it sells out in about 10 minutes. And apparently there's been a gigantic movement for health and working out at home during the pandemic. Have you seen any of that?
So my original degree is in exercise science and health promotion. That's my bachelor's degree. And I'm a professional powerlifter. hold a world record, all that stuff. It was cool. That's what I did for a while a few years ago. And in watching the fitness space, weights were going at 4 times the normal rate on Facebook Marketplace and OfferUp. People were using it like stocks almost. They were buying equipment in advance for COVID, for all of this stuff. I saw weights that usually go for $1 per pound going for $4 per pound. I've never seen people flip fitness equipment in my life. Real estate, yes. Fitness equipment from Walmart, crazy. But the supply and demand, perfect example.
Yeah. And so like one of the things that like I like to talk about the pandemic is not necessarily, you know, how terrible it was, but it's really been a challenge and like of adversity. Right. And so to me, it's sort of like the pivot. It's like, what did you do during the pivot where we all had to figure out how to adjust? And so you have a background in marketing and advertising and you have a product, right? That you were able to sell during the pandemic.
So I had technically a good and bad of that pivot. You know, my speaking business, I was doing 40 events plus per year. That went to nothing. I lost $70,000 plus of just speaking contracts. So that was a tough hit. But I also am the co-owner of a protein bar company called NRG Bite, and we grew 1,800% because of that time, that bad time. You know, so bad is relevant to the perspective you're taking on it. One, you know, and two, what we learned is people were trying to better their health. So they sought out companies like protein snack bars like ours. We were
Right.
able to build trust quickly and show value quickly. And our returning customer rate is so high, even past the pandemic coming, you know, closer and closer to an end. I feel like that was a very crucial time for us to grow. And we were able to serve our customer base a lot more effectively because people had more open ears.
And let me see if I make sure I understand this correctly. Your protein bar is a special bar for diabetic.
So that's the awesome part. It was started by 2 type 1 diabetics, but it's not just for diabetics, which is great. We wanted to build a bar that is for everyone, healthy for everyone, but also for special populations like people with type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, celiac. It's gluten free, it's low carb, low calorie. Those are all benefits to everyday people with no conditions. The major condition that most of us have in the world is not eating healthy, not choosing better foods to hold us over, to make us feel good, to support our goals. You know, the number one New Year's resolution is getting in shape. And in shape is relevant to whatever you decide. I don't believe you need abs to be happy, but I do believe that you have a certain goal with your physique, with your finances, with all of these aspects of your life. And if our bar can help make one of those steps towards one of those goals, we're doing our job.
Well, let's talk about goals and let's talk about some of the reason why you earn money as a speaker, right? So, what do you tell people? Like, what is your advice for people at this time at the beginning of the year? I mean, normally we'd be going through this in January where people have resolutions and they're trying to better themselves. What is your advice for people who are like right now, maybe 2 weeks in to their New Year's challenge? Like, what is your advice for them?
It's never going to be a 3 month challenge, a 90-day challenge. It's never going to be and it's day by day. It's choice by choice. My biggest advice to people starting or continuing any goal, whether it's business, personal, fitness, ask yourself, is the action you are about to do going to make you proud when you look back or no? Will you be proud of yourself because you didn't go to the gym? Will you be proud of yourself because you didn't put together that business plan? What decision would make you more proud? And if you continue to make those decisions that make you more proud, you will have a life worth looking back on and worth living in the moment. That might sound more motivational, but it's very true because a lot of times we know exactly what we should do, but we don't do what we should do. We get overwhelmed. It's one choice. You have tons of things you need to do one of them. Don't sit there and overwhelm on all of them because then nothing gets done. Choose one thing, do one thing, and keep progressing forward.
So keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Right. I think, I mean, just to kind of reflect a little bit, I think some people struggle with some of that. If we're just having a conversation about it, I mean, like in order to to make that decision of like, what's going to make me most proud, right? Like in this moment, like, do I play a video game or do I go for a walk? Right. Mm-hmm. Like, if I really have a lot of self-respect, the walk is an easy choice. But if like I struggle with whether or not I deserve to be happy or things like that, or like whether I am trying, like I think that I'm worth it, I might sit down and play the video game, right?
Definitely. And I think that self-worth is a huge topic to bring up. My counter to that would be, what would you be more proud of? Just going on the walk, or just playing the video game, or going on the walk, then playing the video game? What's wrong with that?
Yeah, there's
what's wrong with
that.
Doing both? You know, what's wrong with saying, hey, I don't feel like doing this, but I need to do it anyways? This is where people hit me with, it's easier said than done. Everyone is guilty of saying that. But to counter that, it's better done than said. Everyone tells me, you know, it's really hard to do this. It's hard to sit down and fix this paralysis by analysis. It's really hard. I don't want to. It's not my priority. If you have a job, you go to work, you probably tell yourself that you need to go to work. But in reality, you don't. You could lose everything you have. You could be homeless, and you could stop making money. You could. It would not be good. It would suck. But if you have the ability to turn a desire to not be homeless into a necessity that you need to go to work, you can take that same desire to necessity concept and apply it to goals, apply it to business, apply it to everything, right?
Like much smaller goals.
Much smaller goals. You have gotten out of bed when you don't want to and gone to work. If you can do that, even when you don't want to, you possess the ability. It's just implementing it.
So I would think that, I mean, just to kind of relate it back to some of your personal experience, what does it take to be a professional powerlifter or weightlifter? Because I imagine that starts off maybe small, and then maybe you enjoy it or whatnot, but then it takes an incredible amount of commitment. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey and what you went through to sort of take something from like the beginning all the way to a professional level?
So it takes the ability to fail over and over without losing that enjoyment, without taking it personally, without affecting your self-worth. Learning to fail the right way, or fail forward, so to speak, allows people to understand that failure does not have a negative connotation if you don't choose it to. You know, a lot of people apply so much negative emotion to not hitting the mark. They create a plan in their head. That's the key point, in their head. It's not real. Just because you make a plan doesn't mean life has to adhere to it. We make a plan in our head. It doesn't go according to the plan that we made up, and now we quit. Is quitting going to do anything? That's the question I constantly ask myself. Is quitting going to get me closer? No. I can't remember who said it, but they said, if you continually try, you might get there. But if you don't try, you definitely won't get there.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
Yeah, basically, I would rather have a maybe than a definitely no.
Yeah.
So it was harder for me though, because, you know, we didn't mention, but I am an amputee. I only have 2 fingers on my left hand and a shorter left arm, and I have an autoimmune disease. I did not compete against disabled people. I started from a lower position. I learned to put a strap that I built myself around there, and I started with 135 pounds. I never thought I was going to be able to go over 135. And then I found a way to do it, and then I went to 225, and then 315, and then 405, then 495, then 585. Then I'm deadlifting 640 pounds in front of 20,000 people at the Arnold Sports Festival. I'm the only person with a disability there. There's blood pouring out of my residual limb because the pressure is so tight. And when I stood up and broke the world record, you know, it's one of those things that you realize the compound effect of all the time that you put in, all those times that you kind of didn't really invest all the energy, but you kept going anyways. You know, 6 years from now is going to be 6 years from now, no matter what. You're either going to look back and say, I'm so glad I did it 6 years ago, or I wish I would have started 6 years ago. Now I'm 6 years behind. And that's what happened for me. I put in the work with social media, with everything. So it can't be about how long it's going to take. It can't be about the adversity you have. It has to be about the story you tell yourselves and the story that you promote to your audience. And that's what I did. I promoted an authentic story to my audience that people could relate to, so that they would take action in their own lives. Not everyone is disabled or diabetic, but everyone has a struggle. And just one perspective of not giving up that one moment, like pushing through and feeling that your story is important enough to tell, We need it. We need new stories. We need new perspectives, because that one perspective could have been that kid. I hid my disability for 17 years, 17 years,
Yeah.
up until 3 years ago, but your story, the fact that you don't think it's worth telling or showing on social media or however you do, your business, your brand, your personal, that perspective could have been the perspective I needed as a kid to stop hiding what I do. So I feel like it's my job and everyone's job out there to take your passion, take your purpose, take your business, whoever you serve, and serve. Don't let your fear of not being perfect stop you from the message and the impact that you can have.
Wow, that's really powerful and inspiring. Chris, is there, could you tell us a little bit about what happened to you? Like, what flipped the switch for you? What occurred in your brain that said, after those 17 years, like, wait a second, like, this has got to be different?
I remember hiding my hand for so long, and there was many moments when I was diagnosed with diabetes at 19 years old. I took diabetes as an opportunity to become more of an advocate, but I still hid my hand. My first few speeches ever, I still was hiding my hand in front of an audience, and I set up a goal for me to get a prosthetic arm, because in United States, it's very difficult to get a prosthetic arm. Healthcare is a little tough, especially for people, amputees and limb different people. I thought I would never get it. So it was one of those goals that I set, but I didn't think I was ever going to actually accomplish. It was one of those goals you're like, yeah, one day. It happened. So I held to my word, and I took my glove off, and I ended up posting a video on YouTube, kind of like my coming out video of showing my disability for the first time. I just threw that out there for me. I woke up to being on the front page of Reddit, the front page of YouTube. Washington Post wrote an article about me, and everything blew up. Everything changed. I still get chills like thinking about that. A few months after that, I was approached by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson of Titan Games, and he had me on his first ever series, Titan Games. And of the hundreds of thousands of people applied, they chose, a few hundred people to compete. I competed for a spot. They chose 32 guys. I made the cut. Of those 32 guys, two guys were on the billboards and all the promo material, and I was one of them. So
that's phenomenal.
The only thing that changed, my disability didn't change. Nothing changed about me. But what changed was the story that I chose to not only tell myself, but to tell the world. And as an influencer, so many influencers today don't have influence. It's like a cheeseburger without cheese,
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people aren't tapping into the true value and impact that they have. Whether
it's
you
very
sell socks,
surface level, right? It can be very surface level.
It is. And you don't have to have a disability to be influential. If you sell socks or sponges, I don't care. But if you're going to sell them, like, believe to your core why you're doing what you're doing. There's a reason why so many companies, whether it's pharmaceutical or any other companies that I work with or not, they have a core team that truly believe in the message. And you can see past the surface level of a company, and you can see people, because companies are made of people, personalities. Trust is established. Empathy is established with people, not just companies. So that's what I try and do. That's how I consult with companies now. So as an influencer, I work with the patients, the people, and the providers to address that empathetically.
I think one of the other words that you've brought up a few times already is authenticity. Right. And I think that if you know who you are, as a person, it's very easy to be authentic and quote unquote stay on brand, right? And feel like, if it feels in your gut that like what I'm doing is true and it's the right thing to do, then you're being authentic and you'll be received a lot more readily, right?
I think authenticity is under attack today because comparison is the thief of joy. People they almost lose their sense of authenticity because they think they need to be like someone else. They see a company that they want to replicate. They see a brand that they want to be just like. They're like, oh, I like their font. I like their messaging. I like their content. I like the way they do this. That's nice. You can like all the stuff you want, but when you start emulating something, you become a carbon copy of who you're not. You'll always be the worst version of someone else and the best version of yourself. As a company, the worst thing you can do is lose yourself in the desire to be like someone else. That just blows my mind. And we have that as a human desire for us to see something nice. And we're like, man, I really want that. Do you want that specifically, or do you want your brand to be seen as that? And there's a big difference. It can only be seen as that if you're truly authentic. Right. But you cannot be authentic when you're replicating.
Do you have any tools to help people like understand themselves, understand their brands? Do you have any tips for people that need help figuring out who they are or what it means to be authentic for themselves?
I think it's more so like having a real conversation. I'm a big whiteboard strategist. I bought like the biggest whiteboard I could possibly find. Maybe just because I have a problem with like I need to see everything all the time. I have tunnel vision, attention span of a butterfly. So I like to write out, the things I want from my business and the things I like of other businesses, and I compare the two. If they're spitting images of each other, something's probably happening because what is your unique pitch? What is your unique perspective? You have some sort of uniqueness. You have some sort of individuality. Unless you're just drop shipping products, and that's completely okay too.
Yeah.
But you have to know the purpose of your business and your brand. If the purpose of your brand is solely financial, you have very specific metrics that you're going to track to see if you're successful. For me, I require fulfillment. You have to know who you are and what you require out of life. Ask yourself, what would you be happy with your business? What would you not be happy with if your business, achieved? If your business just sold, but you didn't feel like you had a personal tie, you didn't serve your community, would those matter to you? If they wouldn't, I'm not saying you have to change that, but I am saying that true brands that stand the test of time have a buy-in from their community.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the things that comes across very, very clearly from you is that it's not just about the money for you. It's the fulfillment it seems like maybe the fulfillment is even more important. Are there any times where you've had people come to you and told you that your story saved their life or made a huge difference to them?
So
let me start over.
Good.
Hey, Chris. So, one of the things that's really coming across clearly from talking to you is just the weight that you put on the fulfillment that you brought up. Right. It seems to me that like the fulfillment is a big part of of what you're earning every day by telling your story. Right. Are there any times where people have come to you and maybe told you that maybe your story has potentially saved their life or just meant a great deal to them and helped them get out of a rut?
So as a professional keynote speaker, I often get hired to tell my story. But that's not really what they're hiring me for. They think that's what they're hiring me for. But my story is just a vessel for the message itself, So it's not all about me. I give people a position to put themselves in my shoes. Some parts through my story, some parts through the actual message. But I specifically remember doing a diabetes-based event and I was super hyped up to go on stage. I was excited. I was ready at about 500 people in this audience. Right before I went on stage, a dad approached me and he's like, "Hey man, I hate to like do this. It's been eating away at me since I saw you today. My kid was just diagnosed a few months ago and he was talking about suicide." And to have that in my mind right before I went on stage, seeing the kid in the audience, it's a tough thing to bear. So as I was talking, I kind of wove in some feelings of self-value, all the normal talk, but I ended up making eye contact with him and just talking to the group, but also letting him know that I see him, that he's not alone or invisible. I ended up talking to him after the event and we had lunch, and I didn't treat him like patient 47. I didn't treat him like he was suicidal. I didn't treat him like he was his condition. I treated him like his name and who he was. We didn't talk anything about it, and I just gave him my time. I gave him my respect, and we talked about whatever he wanted to talk about. I ended up getting a message from this kid on Instagram, a DM, and he sent me a video, and I was like, "Oh no, what is this?" It was him doing push-ups, and in the DM he said, "Chris, I've been taking care of my diabetes. I'm doing push-ups every day. I'm going to be just like you and start speaking."
That's really powerful.
I saw those parents at another event and they're like, "You saved our kid's life." And it's one of those things that like I was there. I vow to be the person I never had growing up. So I know my mission. I know my purpose and my value. And a lot of people aren't as fortunate to go through enough pain to kind of discover that quicker. But I truly believe that everyone has something to offer. And it's not always a disability story. It's not always a multi-million-dollar business. Sometimes it's just the way you think, the way you pitch your product, the way you talk to people, the way you make images, the value that you bring is so much more than the stuff you've gone through. You're so much more than the circumstances you had, the businesses that have failed. Your purpose is much bigger than anything you've ever experienced because your purpose is ongoing. And I truly believe that. So whether you are just building content or a marketing agency or a pharmaceutical company or a sock company, you bring value to your audience. Stop focusing on trying to be perfect and start focusing on trying to just give that audience the value that you can offer. It doesn't have to be harder than that.
Yeah, that's great. So, I mean, talking about forward thinking, what's next for you, Chris?
I want to continue doing what I'm doing for the rest of my life. Not many people I hear say that, I feel like everyone wants more, wants something. I want to speak for the rest of my life. I have this cool thing. I haven't really shown this, but I have my first book coming out. I'm super excited for that. I don't even know if the publishing company wants me to say stuff about that, but it's coming out in April. They're really cool. They're really cool people. I'm just continuing to do what I do. I love speaking. I love consulting. I love helping companies and people when I can. My protein bar company is growing strong. I can't imagine doing anything else. I'm never opposed to other opportunities, but I've found what I want to do for the rest of my life. Eventually I might, add a speaker mentorship to teach people how to communicate. But man, I love this. And I want to keep going.
Well, good for you, man. That's a lot of people that are going to be watching this. That's their goal, is to find that one thing that they want to chase for the rest of their life, right? And get that fulfillment out of it. So I think, yeah. So I really, really appreciate you joining me today and telling your story. Is there any final thoughts, any words of inspiration you'd like to make sure that are very clear for the audience who are going to be watching our show today before we leave?
Don't be afraid to stumble. Put that content out that you've been thinking about doing. Finish that program that you've wanted to do. Finalize that concept that you've been scared to release. Don't be afraid for your concept or the next 5 concepts to not work out the way you want. It takes one person to change their life. We have to stop being upset that hundreds of people didn't join our group, that hundreds of people didn't do that, thousands of people didn't view our video, because that one person that could have viewed the video, could have been inspired by your content, could have been Steve Jobs, could have been the next person that could have changed the world. So our selfishness to be scared of perfection stops growth in other people and stops growth in us. Put the content out. Get better as you go, but don't wait to be perfect to start. You got to start to be perfect. So put the effort in and know that your story does matter.
Wow, those are some very powerful and wise words, Chris. If people who watch this want to follow you on social media, if they want to check out your protein bar, where do they go?
My Instagram is @Chris Ruden. Don't let the blue check mark fool you. If you want to talk, feel free to message me. I DM everyone back. Also YouTube, just @Chris Ruden. And my website is chrisruden.com, mostly for speaking.
That's so great. And so and again, the protein bar is?
Protein bar is NRG Bite, and that's nrgbite.com or @NRGBite on Instagram.
And where can they find it?
Currently, we're mostly online sales. We're a lot in South Florida right now where we're based, but I will say on this video right now, at the end of this year, we will have national distribution. Quote me.
That's fantastic. Well, best of luck to you, Chris. Thank you again for joining us on our Law of Relevancy podcast, and we'll hope to catch up soon.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.